In today's episode, we're talking about hand polishing your car and the differences between pre-cleansers, all-in-one polishes, glazes and waxes. So the first product in that lineup is a pre-wax cleanser. A pre-wax cleanser will contain a light abrasive and cleansing solvents to rid your paintwork's pores of any in-ground dirt or contamination. They generally don't leave anything else behind, and they just leave a dead clean finish for your wax to bond to when you come to that stage. The next step would be a glaze. Now these do leave something behind, but they don't contain an abrasive or any cleansing solvents. They're there just to hide and mask any swirl marks or defects that you can't remove from hand polishing. Then you've got an all-in-one polish. This will contain aspects of both of these products: a light abrasive, cleansing solvents and a glazing agent. But they also go one step further in containing a wax to lay down your first layer of protection. Then you've got a liquid paste wax. Now these contain just wax, so they're just there purely for protection. They won't actually add anything to the finish in terms of cutting into it or cleansing it or removing anything that's stuck to it, but they will lift and enhance the shine and the gloss levels. So to start things off, we're using a pre-cleanser. Pop a small amount onto a microfiber applicator and then working in straight lines. With pre-wax cleansers, we tend to work on one panel at a time as opposed to the whole car. We'll come to that later when we're using other products. We will be applying them to the whole vehicle. Ensuring you work it in thoroughly to break down all of the abrasives to be as fine as possible. Simply then remove with a clean microfiber cloth. The rear quarter section of this vehicle is suffering from a few more swirls and marks than the rest of the paintwork, so we're going to use a glaze here to help fill those and hide them. Same method as with the pre-wax cleanser. A couple of dots on a microfiber applicator, squeeze it together to spread it out before applying to the paint. Now you can go in straight lines or circles here, it doesn't actually matter. Some people say never go in circles. That's true to a degree, but only if you're not confident that the car is absolutely clean and there's no dust or debris laying on the paint surface. The reason you wouldn't go in circles then is because anything that gets picked up will get pulled around the paintwork in circular motions, as opposed to when you go in straight lines, you would leave anything at the end of the stroke before coming back. I'm confident in the cleaning job of this car and the decontamination, so I'm happy to go in circles here. I just feel that it works it into the actual swirls a bit better on all angles and helps fill them up. There's some areas like here where you won't be able to go in circles because you've got the trim line, which you need to keep away from, so straight lines are fine there. But for the bigger areas, if you can work it in circles, you will get a better finish from it. Like the removal of the pre-wax cleanser, we work on a panel at a time with glazes. It's just to stop any dust settling on them and then you pulling that around on the vehicle. There's nothing that really needs to cure in these glazes. It's pretty much done by the time you've applied it to the panel. So using your cloth, just quickly remove the bulk of it. The oily nature of a glaze will mean you'll probably need to flip the cloth and go at it again with a fresh side, so they can be a little bit sticky. And there you have it, a vast improvement on a swirled area of the vehicle, just from filling it up with a glaze. This brings us on to my personal favourite polish from the range, Triple, our all-in-one. Now, like I said earlier, this does a bit of everything. It's got a bit of cut in there, a bit of glaze, and it also lays down a first layer of wax, all in one. Now we're going to work this slightly different. The application can be in straight lines or circles again, like I explained earlier, but we're going to apply this to the whole vehicle before taking off. This is because of the wax element. You want this to cure on the paintwork so you get the most durability from it. Now the actual wax in here is not going to last you the type of times you're going to get from a dedicated wax. You'll get a couple of weeks from it. But if you don't apply it to the whole vehicle and take it straight back off a panel at a time, you'll probably only get a few days. So it's worth doing that little bit extra and applying it to the whole car. Again, a couple of small bits onto a microfiber applicator, squeeze together to spread. Working into the paintwork. Now remember, this has got an abrasive element, so it will cut You've also got a glaze that you want to work in there too. There's no real benefit to working a wax right into paintwork, so it's not that we're doing it for. It's to get the most from the abrasives at this point, more than anything else. You might also notice that I don't work round any detail until I've done the bulk of the area. That's so the pad's not oversaturated and I don't push it into the gaps or the edges. It's worth doing this. It'll make your life taking the polish off a lot easier. So this brings us to the icing on top of the cake, so to speak, the wax. Now, wax won't actually alter the finish of the paint that much. It doesn't have a cutting element or glaze or anything like that to lift the finish, although it will add a little bit more vibrancy and a more glass-like shine. It should be seen like an invisible protection barrier layer you're putting on top of the paintwork. It will seal in the work that you've just done and make the car easier to clean in the future. For this, we'll use a foam applicator. Same as before, a small amount on a pad, squeeze it together to spread it out, and then apply in circles or straight lines. Again, it's totally your call. As long as you're confident that there's no debris on the vehicle that's going to be dragged around, it doesn't actually matter too much. With the wax, you'd apply it to the whole vehicle. Leave it about 5 to 15 minutes to cure, depending on the temperature outside. You can do a thing called the swipe test. Just with your finger, a line through. If it comes off without being greasy, it's ready to take off. Just a microfiber cloth and straight lines will just buff it off nicely. You may hear people talking about waxes gassing or needing a second buff. This is quite normal, especially if you've used a few products on a car. Take it all off, then go back around the car again and just double check any areas to see if there's any more that you've missed or is gassed out and created like an oily mark that needs buffing up. And there you have it, a polished and protected car.